Hey everybody, Objectively Dan here, and it's been a trend recently to call things weird, just kind of pointing out stuff that's, weird, right? I have a list of weird stuff that I'd like to read to you, so here we go. Circumcision, human sacrifice, giant angels, baptizing infants, talking animals, casting demons into pigs, hyper-focusing on other people's sexuality, offering up your virgin daughters to an angry mob, commanding a man to kill his son to prove his devotion to you, severed hands writing on walls. And yeah, I do think that's weird, but maybe you don't think that's weird. Maybe this is all just fine and normal to you. If so, you should call into the show because it is starting right now. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Truth Wanted. I am your host, Objectively Dan, and that's Brady Hardin taking a sip right before the show started. I think we caught that right in the intro, which is great. Brady, how are you doing?
I am great, and I am live on air.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are. Welcome back to the show, Brady. It's been a minute. This, of course, is Truth Wanted, a live call-in show that happens every single week, Fridays at 7 p.m. Central Time. And if you are watching this live right now, you can call in. We have open lines ready for you. It's 512-991-9242, or you can call through your computer at tiny.cc/truthwanted. And Truth Wanted is, of course, a product of the Atheist Community of Austin, which is a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to the promotion of atheism, critical thinking, secular humanism, and the separation of religion and government. And, of course, every single week, I always have a special guest. This week is my fellow hell diver, Brady Hardin. Brady, it's been a minute since you've been back on Truth Wanted. What's going on, bud?
Hey, living the life.
Living the life.
Living the life. Having summertime here in St. Louis. It's been wonderful. No, but look at what's different. I think since I've been here last, I started a new job. That's been going well. Still haven't really jumped super hard back into my podcast, The Life After, which you can find all the episodes of on Spotify and YouTube and anywhere you get your podcast. I feel like we're at an age where we don't need a name where people can get podcasts.
That's kind of the thing.
Know what I mean?
Every I do it too, where it's just like you say like the top 2 or 3 big ones, and then you say wherever you find your podcast. Because if you actually look at all of them, there's like 12 different ones.
That is true. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I haven't really jumped into that, but I'm still been brainstorming like creative projects I want to do, writing. But I'm giving myself time. I want to get my feet back on the ground and get things settled. And then I don't know, I think the right thing will come up and I'll know what to do. But so what am I doing right? I'm in limbo. If I believed in that all of a sudden, and not the fun kinds where I have to bend down really low and might get a Hawaiian lay at the end,
Well, maybe somebody will call in and give you some creative inspiration for your next one.
Who named it that?
Well, who named it what?
Limbo. Like, what was named first? The game or the religious place?
Definitely the religious place.
Then who played that game and thought, oh, let's call us,
I don't know, John
the
Limbo.
Space between heaven and hell. You know what I mean?
John Limbo, I guess. I don't know.
It was a family name.
It's probably some Latin thing or something. Limbanio Leviosa or something.
Whoa. I didn't realize Hogwarts was here.
I mean, it could be if you wanted to.
Somebody got their owl.
Oh man. I wish Hogwarts and all that stuff was like cool for people again. It's always just kind of weird with the whole J.K. Rowling thing,
God.
Way to ruin a whole franchise that a lot of people enjoy, without I don't just have disdain for anybody that still enjoy it. Obviously, it's just like you can't. For me, it's like I can't look back at it without a little bit of, you know what I mean? It's not great.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I did enjoy, I'm kind of, that's become a little bit of like a Chick-fil-A thing for me. But it's not strict in my head, but there was one thing I did enjoy was like the Hogwarts Legacy game. A trans actress did one of the voices of one of the characters. I'm like, okay, they're at least kind of using that property to be like, hey, let's grow away from this sort of bigotry. And yeah, it's a hard thing because I know that so many I'm gay.
Yeah.
Just came out of the closet, everybody. Hello. No, but I'm gay, and so I have trans friends, and I have people who have grown up in adversity, and those books and everything were such an encouragement. And it's kind of similar to how I am with religion in some ways, now that I think about it, because growing up, that was my book series. That was where I went, was the Bible. And now that taste has changed for me, and now that I have left the religion, there isn't that much of it that I can still stomach. But I don't know, like, it's different for everyone. Like, you could still be able to separate the art from the artist in some ways, but in other ways, it's like, I don't know if I'm ready for that. And that's where I stand on a lot of things. And that's okay too,
I didn't get the game myself, and I talked about it on this show. It's just, I like you, I have trans friends, and it just didn't seem like one, a game that I want to really play, but also just like, I don't know, if I told my trans friends I bought it, would it make them happy? Would it make them comfortable? I don't think so. I think it's just it's not worth it. And of course, we could talk about boycotting and stuff. Again, we talked about this last week. I'm vegan. I know what the ethics of boycotting can look like, and the pitfalls that come with it, right? Especially when we're talking about one of the most popular IPs in the world. What's the sales of one video game going to actually do? Nothing, really, for most people, right? But for me, it was meaningful because like
means something, right?
It's not for this grand big number that I'm trying to pull for those corporations. It's more for like solidarity for me. That was kind of my take with it. But like the whole artist separation from the art thing, I don't know if there's ever going to be a correct answer at the end of the day. It just seems like there's always going to be some caveats or some people's feelings differently. I don't know if there's some objective criteria that's going to make some stuff okay, but some stuff not. I don't know if there's a hard line, but that's just my take. I don't know. What do you think?
I recently read a book, and by read a book, I mean listened to an audiobook on history of there was one that I did on history of reality television, but the next one that I read by her was on it's a different author, actually. I'm sorry, but they talked about kind of how culture runs through that, or how do we treat some of those previous artists that we loved, that were so meaningful to us. And she had some really interesting takes on that. I'm trying to remember the name of the book. It's driving me insane, but it was on TV history.
Okay.
Maybe I found that really interesting.
Yeah, you can Google it.
Yeah, I'll Google it later. There we go. But yeah, it was interesting. Like, she had some really good insights on, she's very, very careful about making sure she called things out, and had such a mindful response. It'd be worth looking up. Yeah,
I would be curious to hear. It's definitely something I can learn more from. I that's a topic that I don't think I have enough perspectives on. I think that's something that I would want to be able to feel more informed on by reading more about it. But I'm going to pivot here real quick, Brady, because we got a bunch of super chats. We got a bunch of super chats already that we got to read out here. We got David Haxor, who is a member of 2 months, gifted 5 Truth Wanted memberships. Thank you so much for that, David Haxor. Oh. And then Callie Laughlin, who's a friend of the show, has hosted the show, gifting 5 Truth Wanted memberships just to spite David Haxor. They have a war going on right now, Brady, where every time David donates, Kelly's donating, and it's very funny to see. We also got a super chat from Connor Runda, who gave $4.99. It said, "Now I'm going to make you say it, Dan." Oh man, Slante. Have a great stream all. I think I said it that time. Slayante. I still don't know how to say that. I was on a different stream, and Connor gave a super chat with this word, and I didn't know how to say it. It's an Irish greeting for like cheers, but I'm culturally ignorant and I don't know anything. So it may not even be Irish. It may be Scottish. That's how badly I'm messing this up right now, but so it goes. And then another super chat from David Haxor, who gave $2 Canadian, who said, "Kelly is trying to one-up me." Yes, he is. He is actively trying to do it. And David also gifted another 10 Truth Wanted memberships, so thank you for that. As you guys can see, those of you who haven't tuned in for a minute, we have all these these new graphics and stuff to put the super chats on the screen. So it's kind of cool. You should definitely look at it. Speaking of,
Whoa.
yeah, you seen that? You saw that? It was on there for a second.
Mm-hmm.
But we do have our question of the week, folks, the We Want the Truth segment, and I want to get to that right now. Last week, we asked you guys, when is a bad time to break up? And here were our favorite answers for that. Number 3 comes from Chuck Gatos, who said, when not to break up with your girlfriend, when her brother, the Marine drill sergeant, just got home on leave, her cousin, the mafia enforcer, just got out of prison, and her uncle, the anthropologist, just finished a 10-year study of voodoo in the Caribbean. I feel like either Chuck Gatos
So specific.
is like an excellent creative writer, or you have to have taken this from somewhere, because that is
What movie is that?
yeah, it sounds like a cool movie that I would watch, I think. But thank you for the comment, Chuck Gatos. Number 2 comes from Jason Techlord, who says, when not to break up with your partner as you are getting onto a 14-hour flight, heading to your vacation, and your partner is sitting next to you both ways. So that's definitely a scenario that I don't think I would like.
A coworker shared a story with me today that is a good answer to this. Can I share it real quick?
Yeah, share it. Bonus answer from Brady.
So I'm so sorry to my coworker. I do not want to take your story, but his ex-wife's family moved to be closer to them, and she waited till after they helped them move in to tell them that they're getting divorced and moving away.
What? No. I don't even.
I was stressed out hearing that story, but also laughing. Yeah.
Oh man, that is terrible. All right, that might be the number 1 pick. If we didn't have one already, then our number 1 is from Blake Walker, who says, when is the worst time for a breakup? Right after she wins the Powerball, but before she tells you. Oh, true. That's true. Good. That is very good. You guys gave great answers this week, so thank you guys so much for that. The prompt this week is going to be, what's Jesus's best excuse for not showing up? So looking forward to the answers on this one. I feel like you guys can have, a little bit of spicy answers. So, give it your best shot. Leave it in the comment, and we'll pick our top 3 for next week. But Brady, what is Jesus's best excuse for not showing up?
I'm gonna have to go biblical on this, and I think that he's on the shitter.
Wait, why is that biblical?
Well, because when Elijah had that competition with the altars, right? Am I remembering this correctly? I'm going off of like your old ass memory, but when they had like the idol and then the Yahweh, and then had this competition of who's going to light the fire first, I'm pretty sure that the prophet of the Lord became a little bit of a stand-up comedian and was like, oh, so your God wants you to cut yourself up. He must be busy he must be be in the bathroom.
Yes, you're right. That is the thing that happened in that story. Yeah. I always get the Elijah and Elisha mixed up too, by the way.
Do you remember Frank Peretti?
I don't. That's not a name I've never heard in the Bible.
He was a the prophet Frank Peretti. No, he was a Christian writer. He wrote like This Present Darkness, Piercing the Darkness, Monster. I think it was about Bigfoot. Anyway, he had a kids series, and it was supposed to be like a spy family. This is a Christian evangelical, whatever. Okay. But they had this spy family, and the oldest twins were Elijah and Elisha, a boy and a girl. I thought that was clever.
Oh,
that's the best part of the book, I think, and then it kind of goes downhill from there.
I was gonna say, I didn't read a whole lot of Christian books. I did read Left Behind, though.
You should have left that behind.
And I should have left that behind because I definitely was way too young to read those books. I very distinctly remember reading those in like 3rd and 4th grade.
Same.
And that is not a good book.
Nerd
that was scarier than any other book I could have possibly read at that time period.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what the Bible actually says at that age. Like, scorpion men and shit are just gonna come and hunt your family down. Like, that could be a thing. Yeah.
And like, the more I think about it, like the boogeyman of that whole thing was one world.
Yeah.
In other words,
Globalism. Yeah.
it was having to be around people who are different than you.
Yeah.
And like, so like really it was just like a horror film about xenophobia and like vilifying the other to the point of calling it the Antichrist.
It's true.
It was bananas. Like, I don't know, whatever.
Shout out
God
to my
bless.
fellow victims that had to read Left Behind at too young of an age. I don't think I've actually seen the movie though with Nicolas Cage. Have you seen the movie?
Which there's like several.
Yeah,
Yeah.
more than one. I'm only interested
You're not
in the
missing.
Cage flick, of course. But that's something.
By the way, I did remember the name of that book from that I was mentioning before.
Okay. What was that book?
It was called I Like to Watch. And I want to clarify that it is not Jerry Falwell Jr.'s memoir.
Okay.
It is I Like to Watch by Emily Nussbaum.
Okay. All right. So there's that book. I don't even remember what the topic of that. Oh, about separating the art from the
TV
art.
history and separating art from the. Yeah.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Yeah. Like I said, that's I might have to look at that because I feel like that's a topic where I have an opinion, but I don't think I've read enough of other people's opinions to be as confident in my opinion, if that makes sense. I guess that's kind of sad. I should be confident in my own opinion, but it's like, have I actually considered all the possibilities there? I don't know that I have. I definitely haven't read a book on it, so, you know.
One possibility for people, and this isn't the right thing to do, but sometimes if you just illegally download the art that you're not wanting to have the artist benefit from, don't do that.
Yeah, well, I can't. As a part of the AC, as a host on the show Truth Wanted, which is a product of the atheist community of Austin, I cannot legally advocate for downloading movies illegally. So we're just gonna put that out there. That's the thing.
As a wild card host.
No, don't do it, Brady.
I can't either. I won't. Okay.
Okay. So speaking of Christian media, though, we were both talking about Evil before this.
Oh,
and
yeah, I love this show.
You should talk about give a synopsis of Evil, because I feel like that's a really interesting show to watch for people like us.
Yeah, the way I describe it, it's X-Files.
Yeah.
But instead of alien lore, it takes Catholic lore, spins it on its head, adds a lot of satire and brutal social commentary towards the Catholic Church that they really deserve. And it's a beautiful show. It doesn't take itself too serious. I'm very much like I am a survivor of religious trauma, but it's a show that I not only like can stomach, but I'm like, oh my God, I love this. Like, it twisted enough to where I'm rooting for the right characters, and they know what they're doing. They know how to write the show in a way that's like, it has a purpose. It has like an edge to it, but is also funny and just entertaining to watch as well.
What I like about that show is the lead character, she's a psychologist, one of the two, and is openly atheist, like says straight up, I don't believe any of this shit. And they don't make fun of her for that. At least from what I've seen, maybe
everyone's an atheist in that show.
There's a lot of people that are atheists in the show, and it's never a thing of, oh, well, they need to be open-minded to the supernatural. They're like, no, actually, fuck you guys. This guy's fake. And there's a lot of stuff where they're like stuff like isn't real. They play on ambiguity a lot as to whether things are real or not. Because
they're a team investigating if things are miracles or if they're demonic, etc. for the Catholic Church, but are supposed to be kind of like a objective arm, but I mean the two of the three main characters are non-believers, and only one of them is a believer, and he has a lot of questions and everything. Yeah. I also appreciate they added like a nun character towards the end, and she's played by the Jewish actress Andrea Martin, who she's she's from Toronto. She was part of Second City, so she was friends with Catherine O'Hara and Eugene Levy, if you guys are familiar with Schitt's Creek, and John Candy. Like, she used to be in an improv group with him. And then they added a priest later on, and he's played by Wallace Shawn, who's like the guy from Princess Bride, inconceivable. Or
Right,
he's like,
right.
he's also the voice of Rex from Toy Story. Like, I don't know. He's just a great.
We're just doing free
Great
press for the
player for
show,
that.
I think.
Yeah,
At this point.
pretty much. I
Not
love it.
sponsored. This is not sponsored content.
Not
Anyway,
sponsored. Sorry.
I guess the reason
Criminal
why I thought
Plus.
it was interesting because Brady, you're a TV guy, and like every time an atheist character is in movies or in media, there's always a plot written around them, being too skeptical about something or not open-minded enough about something, and then getting their just desserts. And this show, I think, is very cognizant of that trope and kind of turns its head a lot of times because it really goes back and forth on whether shit is real or not. And I don't know, I appreciate that. You don't see a lot of characters who are openly atheists and then also like likable, like in these kinds of in movies and stuff these days. Oh, that's changing,
badass.
but it's kind of cool. So
another example that comes to my mind is the show Community. They had an episode, the very first Christmas episode, was brilliant on that exact topic because everyone had a different background.
Yeah.
And yes, they made the character who is quote unquote the worst
is
the atheist. But
the most annoying activist type character is the atheist character on Community, which
But I also have never felt so seen by a character on television.
Yeah.
Because that is like I watch it with my son and I'm like, God, I am Britta. Like those are my behaviors on television. So
I can't sing.
down
Actually, they get mad at me if I sing that song. I don't think that's copyright. Maybe not. I don't know. Dan Harmon probably comes through the show, and that won't be good. But anyway, Community is also a good show for that, I think. But also because that is like Dan Harmon's thoughts just written as characters a lot of times, which I don't know, very auteur driven, I think.
Do you have a minute? Let's talk about Dan Harmon for a moment because he actually was kind of an interesting part of my deconstruction.
Okay.
Of like getting out of Christianity or kind of like, let me reword it this way. Not that he was a force of me getting out, but some of the things that he would talk about and write about helped me as I rebuilt afterwards. They get kind of like a mindset, which makes sense of why television is such a connection to me. Because one thing he talks about is whenever he writes an episode, there's 8 steps that he does in each episode where a character has like a realization that they want something, they go after it, they learn kind of like how to get it, they fail, they come back and then are able to redo it with new knowledge and able to get what they want but at a price. And all that is a repackaging of ideology from Joseph Campbell called A Hero's Journey, which is kind of like he was studying all these different stories from around the world and notice the same patterns. And what that tells us is that those patterns in the human are so embedded into the human condition that no matter what culture we're coming from, these same themes come up, right? So Dan Harmon kind of took some of that ideology and ran with it. And I found it helpful to me because I went from having the Bible, which was, my source of inspiration and stories that were meaningful to me, to not having anything. But then with just like a little understanding of that, almost felt like an anthropology lesson. Then I was able to kind of like watch a show or a movie or something, be able to get meaning out of it. And sometimes those shows and meanings have walked with me for years now, right? Like as memories or as an inspiration, or if I run into a similar situation or I need a mantra, something from that show may come up. And there's just been little pieces of inspiration
from Community,
and a lot of it started from Dan Harmon.
Yeah. I almost was going to wait until you were finished and then do the like hot gay thing at the end, but I didn't want to really go there. But like, no, that's like, I get that. He's also, I mean, say what you will about the guy. I don't know I'm sure he's had some controversies and stuff. I don't really know about all that, but I mean, I don't mean that to say like dismissively. I just mean like I literally don't know. Like I don't know his life or what he's been up to. I've heard different things, but what I do know is I have seen his stuff. I have watched all of Community. I've watched most of Rick and Morty and stuff. And he's also someone who is, I think, very openly atheist in his writings. Doesn't really give a shit, but like can still, I don't know, make that interesting in a way. I guess it's not just like the church is bad and blah blah blah. I think like I don't know. I think he's done an interesting thing in humanizing people from different backgrounds. I say that, but also does episodes like where Abed is like thinks he's Jesus or whatever, and then there's like a whole like movie that he's making about himself of being Jesus. It's very meta and the whole joke, and yeah, I don't know. But it's creative.
We watched that episode recently, and as I watched, I'm like, God, this is actually a really good social commentary. It was wild. One thing, if you don't mind, I do kind of want to talk about one of his controversies because I think it's an interesting conversation.
Okay, let's do that, and then let's talk to some callers.
For sure. It actually happened a little bit around the Me Too era where one of his most successful writers, name is Megan Gaines. Oh my God.
Okay, I did hear about this one. Yeah.
So you know where I'm going. So she wrote the episode of the Dice, the multiple universes. She's absolutely brilliant. But she came forward and talked about how he was kind of like what is the word I'm looking for? Where you kept talking to her and kept on like trying. I think
he was coming on to her really, really strongly,
repeatedly,
right?
yeah, and just like saying inappropriate things and not making for a good workplace.
Yeah.
But she talked about that publicly, and he acknowledged it publicly, and he apologized in depth. In fact, he took time to read a book on how to actually like learn and apologize for things. And wrote this op-ed and then Megan responded to it, and it was a masterclass in acknowledging wrong, learning from it, and growing to be a better person. And it was a masterclass in how to forgive somebody, trust like that they are going to grow, and then still continue to be supportive of each other after that. It was phenomenal, and it meant Megan's response more than anything, because let's make the star here. They did like an NPR focus and stuff on it as well at some point, but it was great to see that in the public as it was, and for us to be able to kind of learn from it. But also like what we were talking about before of like, he doesn't need to lose his career, and he doesn't need to do all of that in this case. There are cases where people need to, absolutely. But in this situation, for like the victim to be able to like also publicly say like, hey, I forgive, and let's work on a better way together forward. Like, that's the kind of legacy that I want to leave behind for future generations.
Yeah.
It is important to cancel people at times. It is important to say you're out of chance, you're done. What you've done is beyond. But it's also important to say like, damn, you need to learn. I'm going to embarrass the fuck out of you, but I'm going to give you an opportunity to snap out of it. And if you do that, then we can work together. Then we can be something, you know?
Yeah, it's complicated because, you know, how do you want to apologize to somebody? You want to make sure your victim is heard. But then also there's a whole PR element to this too, right? Where it's like, okay, like you want it to be seen that, hey, there was a thing that happened, but now this thing doesn't matter anymore. And that's really awkward, right? Like, I don't know, there's got to be some ethics there. I hope I'm never in a situation like that where I'd have to figure something out. You know, it's got to be a nightmare. But I haven't read his apologies. You make it sound like it's amazing. I guess maybe I have to look at that. But yeah, I do wonder too. Like,
I don't want to say like amazing. Like how amazing can apology? You know what I mean? But it was mindful.
Yeah,
and it was, I believe, heartfelt. I mean, he's also a writer, and he's probably a little bit of a sociopath, so there is a possibility that it was just like an act. But from what I understand, like there really was like a fix in that relationship, and there really has been an improvement on his side.
I have heard that she has forgiven him for that, and ultimately, isn't that the most important thing, right? So
God,
you know, there you go,
hands down for sure.
But a lot to be said about topics like that are definitely outside of my particular expertise. But you know what is in my particular expertise, Brady, is cryptids and taking calls on a call-in show. So I think we should do maybe both of those things.
You and Miss Cleo.
Miss Cleo. Before we get started, though, I have to thank the awesome folks that donate on the Patreon. Folks, we always give a shout out to the patron of the week, and this week's patron of the week is going to be Paul Sherman. And I got it ready this time. Last week, I was like in the studio here, and our screen in the front is like mirrored, and it was backwards. It was too far away, and I couldn't read it, but I got it here in my notes. It's Paul Sherman. Thank you so much, Paul Sherman, for being the patron of the week, and thank you to everyone.
I'm glad his name was English enough for you. It was
That's
American
also true. Like
it
wasn't super, not a spelling that I wasn't familiar with or anything. So that was good. Let's take some calls, Brady. Let's talk.
Why are we spelling Sean SCAN? Where did that come from?
You gonna start?
You know what I mean?
Are you gonna start?
That's what I'm gonna start with.
The Sean's of
Sean's of the world.
audience?
Get a real name, guys. Come on.
I'm pretty sure we have a more than one Sean patron, so you might be affecting things here, Brady. I think we gotta let you go. So no, I'm just kidding. I don't care.
It was good.
No,
seeing you
that's
all.
true. I will say, as an American, when I do see the SCAN, a little bit of my brain does break, just a little bit, because it just I wasn't taught to read things that way, but. What do I know?
But then I realized too, I'm a huge fan of Jean-Luc Picard from Star Trek Next Generation, and it's like that's a hypocritical thing of me to be okay with one and not the other.
That's
so
right.
I apologize to all the Seans. I'm on your side now.
Let's get your public apology. Yeah.
Yes, here are the steps I need to take. All right.
All right.
I acknowledge the pain that I have done.
Let's get to the show here.
In the future, I'll do better. Okay. Go ahead.
We got Clutch, who is calling in from the great state of Texas. Clutch Cargo, you are live on Truth Wanted. What's going on?
Hey, Brady. Hey, Dan. You guys are probably too young to remember the cartoon, Clutch Cargo, right?
I was thinking it sounded like a Cars character, but I didn't want to think if that was your real name.
A Cars character?
One of those primitive 60s cartoons where just their lips moved.
It's like a Hanna-Barbera.
Oh.
Anyway. Yeah.
Yes.
Huh.
Okay.
Yes,
I believe it.
With his paddle spinner and Paddlefoot.
There's so many trash Hanna-Barbera shows. It's amazing how much garbage they put out. It's incredible. And then like only a few things like Scooby-Doo like lasted the test of time, which is very fun to think about. But anyway,
I still remember the theme song from Clutch Cargo, so fuck that.
Don't sing it on the show. Don't sing it on the show because we're live on the YouTubes and YouTube doesn't.
Yeah, some ghost will sue you.
Yeah. Well, Hanna-Barbera is still very much alive, I think, as a thing. Are they alive? Or wait, are they still? I don't know. I don't have time. We got Clutch Cargo. What do you got for us?
Is the topic tonight church-state relationship?
It can be. Why? What about it?
Oh, I thought I saw that in the thing that we were talking about church-state.
Oh, on the chat poll? I think our chat poll was talking about cryptids actually, which is why Brady brought that up. But no, you have comments about the church-state separation. Let me hear that.
Well, I was lucky enough to when I was in college, I was lucky enough to study under a national authority, Dr. Ron Flowers, who wrote a couple of the books that are still in law, reviewing the Supreme Court cases dealing with church-state separation.
Really?
Ooh.
An interest of mine ever.
Oh, we're getting some audio issues, crew. If we could get Clutch Cargo back to normal levels of audio, that would be great. Clutch Cargo, you still there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
There we go. Yeah.
Oh, hey.
Yeah, if you're on a Bluetooth device or something, I don't know, just stay in one place because you're kind of fading out there. Go ahead.
No, it's a litany of woe. I've replaced this phone twice. It still cuts out.
Oh man! All right, that's not good. Well, hopefully you can stay long enough with us in
you sound good now. Go for it.
In the realm of the living, to talk about your topic. But yeah, what were you talking about with that?
Well, I have the main reason I called is church-state separation issues are very complicated.
Yeah,
they're not cut and dried. Do you want to hear about Little Bird of the Snow versus the United States?
Little Bird versus the Snow. I read it every night.
No, Little Bird of the Snow versus the United States. This was a Native American child who was on public aid, and her father did not wish her to have a Social Security number because that's a religious, traditional religious belief that any identification takes your soul.
Ooh.
Okay.
How do you think that turned out?
Well, I mean, I know there are soft citizens who don't let their kids get social security numbers, so I imagine that they won the right to not give their kid a social security number, right?
No.
No? Okay.
She did. No. She didn't have to get a Social Security number, but she could not receive federal aid.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, that sucks. Man. All right. Yeah. That is kind of thorny. You're right. There's definitely a little bit of nuance there for sure.
Okay, here's another one. A case that went all the way to the Supreme Court about the Native American Church having the right to ingest peyote as part of their religious ritual.
Yep. Heard about this one. I don't know
that was allowed, wasn't it?
Yeah, wasn't that allowed?
It's actually still kind of contested.
Okay.
It's kind of allowed, but kind of
This
not.
is fun.
Yeah, I actually like this. This is a nice little trivia game.
It's like a game show.
Yeah.
Well, here's my main point. These things are so complicated, and there are so many interests to be acknowledged. Here's an interesting one that I find it interesting. The state was providing bus fare for kids to get to school, and some of these kids were going to Catholic schools.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So is that supporting the church, or is that just supporting kids getting the fuck to school?
Yeah.
See,
yeah.
I'm very anti everything, but to me, it would be important just to get those kids to school. To me, to me, I'd be okay with that. Like, let's let the kids learn.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, when you define, you can pretty much call anything a religion or call anything under religious protection, right? So it's like, at what point does something become reasonable and what does it not, right? I mean, like, yeah, I agree with you. I would want kids to get to school, but then also that's taking advantage of, government services, right? That presumably the school doesn't have to, I don't know, pay back into in any way. Yeah, that's you're right. It's tricky. I don't know if there's going to be a solid answer for some of these at the end of the day, as long as we live in a pluralistic society where people are going to come from different religious backgrounds, which, I mean, let's face it, we're always going to be that way. I don't want an atheist republic by force. I don't want to force people into my beliefs. I want people to be able to live their beliefs the way they want without it intersecting in the way that I live my life. And thus we have, the world that we live in. But
and I'm cool with making it absolutely mandatory. And I think it's a requirement that everybody should be atheist.
Yeah. Do you want to?
I want to play devil's advocate for fun.
Get their atheist cards in the mail and stuff. You gotta, check on their Christian, whether they're going to church or not. Yeah. No, I don't want to live in that world either. So, those are some interesting cases.
Can I give you one last?
Give me another one.
One last Supreme Court case.
Absolutely.
Okay, Donnelly v. Lynch, 1984. Can you hear me now?
Yep, can hear you just fine.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I've got a fucked up phone, so forgive me. Donnelly v. Lynch, 1984. A nativity scene was put up in a private space, not a public park, but it was paid for by the city. And that's where we got what's come to be called the Plastic Reindeer rule.
Okay. All right.
Ever heard of that?
I don't know that I have. Brady, you
I think I have, yeah.
Okay. Tell me about this.
Trying to split the difference. They said you can put up a nativity scene as long as it's part of a general cultural celebration of Christmas. In other words, if you've got reindeer and various other Christian or rather holiday symbols, it's okay if it's part of the bigger tableau.
Okay.
So they were trying to split the difference. They were trying to split the difference to not tell the Christians to get the hell out of town.
So in other words, baby Jesus and the manger can be there as long as Santa Claus and the elf from that one movie where he wants to be the dentist or whatever, and like Rudolph and stuff. That's kind of what's happening.
Precisely. As long as you're celebrating Hanukkah and whatever other religious traditions correlate with December, a lot do.
All right.
Maybe you've got a Greek So the Supreme Court is always until recently, is always trying to split the difference. They're trying to make both sides happy, and that's hard to do.
Yeah, that's true. Clutch Cargo, that was a great call. Very entertaining. Thank you for those.
Well, thank you for the show, and I continue to and have a great hot as hell weekend.
Thank you so much.
You too.
And you cut out at the end there, but I heard the sentiment regardless. It was all positive things from what I could tell. So, yeah, that was really interesting. I don't
Separation
think
of church and state. That's very interesting. Another book that I read recently on television, although about television. I didn't read it.
Read it on television.
It's called Outrageous. It was a history of showbiz and the culture wars. And it is wild of how long we've been going through the same conversations over and over and over. They're pulling out quotes from Frank Zappa from before I was born about the Heritage Foundation or like other organizations. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to name something, but like it was uncanny that these quotes came from decades ago, because it was him like a prophet foretelling the efforts that we've seen recently, like eerie.
Yeah.
But it was a very interesting book. I highly suggest that for people if want to read on the background of that.
If we're talking about books and being severely eerie, I mean, I always talk about. Actually, I haven't talked about this book in a while, but Neil Postman's "Amusing Ourselves to Death." Every single media studies person, probably communications students like me, has read that book, and it is absolutely the most prescient book I've ever read in my life. Spoiler alert: it basically predicts Donald Trump back in like 1984 or whatever that book came out. It's probably pretty incredible there. But you're talking about
what's that called again?
Neil Postman is the author. Is "Amusing Ourselves to Death" is the name of that book.
Got it.
But there are a lot of stuff to be said about our culture and stuff, which is why I like talking to you, Brady, because you like reading books about TV, and who doesn't like reading books about TV, right?
Normal people.
Yeah, normal people, absolutely. We have some announcements I gotta get to really quickly, folks. I've been talking all the time about the Bat Cruise, and I know you can't wait for me to shut up about it, but not yet, because I'm still talking about it. The Bat Cruise is happening August 24th. Come there, be square. Guess what? It's sold out right now, but there is a wait list. You still are going to be able to make it if you want, and somebody cancels, you can be the next one right up if you're on that list. So get on that wait list if you want to. Come join us. It's going to be myself, the Cross-Examiner, Jimmy Jr., Kelly Laughlin, J. Mike, Secular, Rarity, Christy Powell, and a whole bunch of other folks from the atheist community of Austin, all hanging out together on a boat, watching the bats fly out from under Congress Bridge. So check it out, tiny.cc/batcruise to do that. And you can also become a channel member if you want to support the show by clicking that little join button. It gets you access to the special chat emojis with my face on it. You get early access to YouTube shorts and clips as well. So consider that an option. And while you're thinking about supporting the ACA, we have flyers that you can actually give out to people, like printable flyers. Remember when that was a thing? Well, it still is a thing, and you can, with permission, with whatever community bulletin board you have or area where it's appropriate to put this up, to call into the show. Encourage other people to call into the show by giving other people the number. So I've gotten some pictures from some folks that
for a good time.
Yeah, for a good time. That's one way to advertise the show, I guess. I don't know if I'd be the voice they'd be expecting, but, maybe they'd enjoy it. Who knows? But another thing I need to talk about is our email. You can email the show. It's truth@atheist-community.org. You can also email tv@atheist-community.org. See what's going on our website at atheist-community.org. That truth@atheist-community.org. Send that to me if you got something interesting for me to look at, because that's the kind of emails I like personally, or just, feedback on the show. That's always good too. Last but not least, I have to thank the wonderful, amazing, stupendous, fantastic crew that helped make this show happen every single week. There's our crew cam, and we got Vern in the studio with me today as well, because my computer is still not fixed yet. Just got it into Dell like 2-3 days ago. So it's cooking. We'll see what it's going to be like next week. I don't know. But yeah, I don't mind being back in the studio, even though like there's nobody in here, which is sad. We got like empty audience seats and stuff. So we thought about it at the beginning of the show. We were like, what if we got like 2 or 3 people here in the building and we did an audience cam and we just have like one person in the corner? Like, I don't know how good that would look, but you know, hey, there's an option we could have considered. We have a gift membership from David Haxor, who gifted 5 Truth Wanted memberships. Thanks so much for doing that again, David Haxor. Now it's time to go back.
Do I get commission on those on the episodes that I'm on?
Do you get commission? Man, I wish. If you're getting commission, I need to get commission. But no, we're all volunteers here.
Also, why does Adele have your computer? Like
Adele?
Is she quit singing? Now she's in the Geek Squad. What's going on?
Adele and Geek Squad, it kind of sounds like a good bit. I'd watch that special on Saturday Night Live. But
yeah, I like that. I like that.
Pretty good. Let's talk to some more people, huh, Brady? We do have open lines, so please come, call in, come talk to us about almost anything if you really want to. But
what are you wearing?
What are you wearing? What'd you do this week? No, maybe not like that, but you know, something interesting would be nice. But now I want to talk to Rogue Show, calling the show again this week from South Carolina. Rogue Show, you're live on Truth Wanted. What's up?
Hey, yo, how you doing?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing fine. I'm a bit tired, but I'll be okay.
Good. Rogue Show, I see you wanted to ask a question here, and it says, can a theist be a skeptic? Is that what you want to talk about?
Yeah. In the sense of, never mind. Actually, yeah, sorry.
Go ahead.
I want to define what I mean by skeptic, which is one who analyzes a claim or a proposition, with skepticism or with logic and evidence.
Okay.
That may be too broad a brush.
Well, it's kind of hard to use the word skepticism for the word skeptic too, right? I feel like maybe a separation there would be good. But essentially, yeah, I mean, you're asking if a theist can be skeptical, right? Or can be skeptical about something?
No, not skeptic. Not skeptical. Or not skeptical, because the answer would be yes.
Okay.
But a skeptic.
Yeah. The thing is about the word skeptic is like people have tried to what's the word I'm looking for? Make a community around that word, right? There's a lot of YouTubers and stuff that use the word skeptic for themselves of various political inclinations, right? You know, typically, of course, we associate that with the atheist movement, but oftentimes it can be associated with just plain old agnostics or people who come from, you know, some religious traditions that allow for a more skeptical look at the world. So it's not really a word that I'm a big fan of, just because it's hard to know what people mean when they're using it, right? So can a theist be a skeptic? I mean, I think so. I think it's possible. It would definitely be a non-traditional theist, but like, who's to say that skeptics don't believe in other crazy stuff that would defy scrutiny, right? That doesn't mean that they don't have a right to a particular word. I don't know. I'm not going to be the type of gatekeep here. Even if I personally disagree with like a theist worldview, for example, I can't say that they aren't going to be skeptical or have a skeptic viewpoint about other things. So I don't know. At the end of the day, words are just words, and people just assign meanings to them, and that's all they are. So who cares? That's my take. Brady, what do you think?
Well, can I ask you what would you think might be the conflict between those two terms, like a theist and the skeptic? What? Because evidently there's some sort of friction there, or else it wouldn't be a question or a topic that's brought up necessarily.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So what do you think might be the that balance there?
Yeah, I'd like to know too.
I think the best. I think the friction I think of the friction. Sorry, the friction that is there is why do you hold this claim to a lower standard than any other claim or proposition or something?
Yeah. I think this is, again, where
That's
the word skeptic kind of becomes muddled here. Like, okay, like take an example from history, like Martin Luther, okay, famously religious. I would call him a skeptic because he is primarily known for us today, or very popularly known for being skeptical of the Catholic Church, right? He was skeptical of the claims that were being made, and he himself was a religious man, but he definitely posed criticism. He definitely posed scrutiny. So I think that he is a skeptic in one class, in one sense of that word, right? Is he a religious skeptic? In some ways, that's true too, because he is skeptical of the theological assertions of the Catholic Church. So yeah, I think that would qualify him as a skeptic, but he's not an atheist though. That's kind of the difference there, right? So like, once again, like the word skeptic, I think can just kind of miscommunicate ideas. I don't think it's super useful. I don't think it's a super unifying word. So it's not one that I particularly care for, but other people can use it. I don't care.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Yeah, because I mean, he protested against it, and that is like a form of skepticism, or I would even call it like a step behind, like beyond skepticism. It was that assessment was made, realized, hey, this ain't up to par. Now I'm going to protest against it.
Yeah.
That's a really good point. I think like some people use skeptic because it kind of helps blur the lines between a non-believer and a believer too. You know, because I've even heard that phrase a little bit with like within the Christian or within like religious realms of like kind of close to like being a seeker or somebody who's questioning. I'm skeptic. And so it's still part of that ideology, but it's just like outside of that. So I feel like it's like used by some to kind of blur that line so that they can maybe talk about their beliefs without turning people off by, oh, well, this is just a guy who doesn't believe the same as me. But if I can use this other third word that isn't believer or non-believer, then it may be more, marketable to a more mass audience or something. Just thought.
Yeah, it's true. Rogue Show?
I don't know. It's actually kind of hard for me because I kind of like going down going down semantic rabbit holes personally. And so like, yeah, it might just depend like what do you mean by a skeptic? Because there are people like you mentioned, there are probably YouTubers who label themselves skeptic but are pretty gullible.
Sure. I mean, how many people from the flat earth community, for example, call themselves skeptics, right? I mean, they are skeptical of the model of the earth being round, right? So like, yeah, in one sense of that word, they definitely are. But are they going to be associated with like, I don't know, that intelligentsia, that sort of other sort of attributions that we give to that word? Like, we don't want to give credit to that, right? I mean, I know I don't, right? So that's why, again, it's just a context specific word that really is going to depend on the speaker.
It makes sense to me.
Yeah.
I like that.
I just kind of like I guess I have this friction because it's the same way that atheism is stigmatized, and and like theists are like these these stupid atheists. They think there is no God.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the same way for skepticism, where it's like the word is so misused. The word is pretty much very misused and stigmatized that you just want to defend it. And,
Yeah, I can see that. But listen, you don't owe anybody an explanation for your beliefs, right? You don't owe anybody an explanation for the words that you use to describe yourself, right? Those words are for yours to use. Yeah. And yeah, there's definitely people that use words in ways that I would find disagreeable, or I would find going against the grain in common definitions. But, you know, the truth of what people mean will always be revealed through the rest of the words and through their actions, right? So, like, yeah, there's going to be some people I find goofy that are going to use that word skeptic. That doesn't mean I feel like, oh, hey, I have to defend this word because this word is supposed to describe my community, and my community is the right community, you know? Like, it doesn't matter to me at the end of the day, right? You know, when I very seldomly like using the word atheist, to be honest with you, because I do think that there's some associations that are kind of connotated with that. I would rather convey my beliefs to people, or lack thereof, as exactly that. It's like, look, I was a Christian, and now I've deconstructed that faith, and I don't call myself a Christian anymore. And so I live my life without a God belief. I think like being able to put that into a word will be great, but there's no great word for that, as I know, besides, you know, ex-Christian or, you know, former Christian, stuff like that. To me, that's more meaningful as a description than just, oh, atheist doesn't believe in God, because, you know, atheists have different experiences in life, right? There's different roads that come to that. Some people have their own deconstruction stories, but it's not always from Christianity. Sometimes it's Islam. Sometimes it's other forms of religion. Or sometimes you just grow up not having a God belief at all. And that might look differently from somebody who did grow up with a God belief. So, you know, point is, just find a word that's comfortable for you. Don't feel the need to, I mean, in my opinion, you know, I don't think you have to feel the need to defend the word to anybody. Use it if you like it, if you're comfortable with it, and if not, you can find a different word or make something up. Because why not? Who cares?
I found for myself, like, a secular humanist is kind of how I would define myself, because I like to define myself by what I do believe first now, instead of what I don't believe. You know, I used to be like, I'm ex-Christian, and I think each step is valid. You know, I don't want to be like, oh, well, that means you're a little baby, you're playing Power Rangers when the rest of us are, you know, kicking soccer balls. Like, it's not that sort of thing. Like, we're all on our own paths and journeys. And but for me, like, I like to say, hey, yeah, I'm a secular humanist, because it says what I am first. And I'm like a secular humanist with leftist rising. Or like, I'm a secular humanist wing, Trekkie wing. I don't know, like I don't know, just like that's how I do it now.
Yeah. I'm at a point now where I don't feel like I need to give words or, you know, people can use to dismiss me for any real reason, right? I mean, I feel that way for personally for like a gender expression, like, yeah, I'm a dude, but like you know, if there's something else that could describe it more accurately, maybe, I don't know, I don't care. Like, I don't feel the need to tie myself to that kind of stuff as much anymore. I think what's more important, again, is just the ability to convey your thoughts and feelings and experiences into something that goes beyond just what's been traditionally defined by those words anyway. Because at the end of the day, that's going to be most important. What?
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. But
yeah.
In this day and age, though, especially with the internet, some of those labels are helpful for us to find communities.
True.
Right?
True.
And so, like, yeah, you may not need that now, but I'm a gay man living in Missouri. I still need to find queer groups. I still need to find, like, my queer community or my gay friends or things like that. So there are times where, like, those named communities or those names labels are a good thing, you know?
Absolutely right.
But then when we don't need them, then yeah, it is okay to outgrow them and to leave them behind. But there are still going to be some that keep until you're dead, you know?
Yeah.
to help us identify our people.
That's a great counterpoint, actually. And something
That's what I'm here for.
Yeah, no, that's good.
I'm Dan's devil's advocate.
You're this is the atheist community of Austin. This show is produced by that. And like, I sometimes I'm like, man, I wish we could call it the humanist community of Austin. I wish we could use some of these other words, but no, atheist is a word I think that used to comfortably describe people in their experiences. And I don't think that they should be discounted for that. I don't think just because I am not the biggest fan of that word doesn't mean that it's not a word that resonates for other people. Because you're right, like it's there so that other people who identify that way can find community, and that's super, super important. I think that's something that a lot of people who don't feel politically the same way kind of don't understand, right? Because it's like, why are all these words? Why is there LGBTQ plus all these stuff? It's like, yeah, because like, if you're a part of the majority, you never had to find words. You kind of just fit in, right? You kind of just...
That's it, right there.
Yeah,
yep.
Like you never had to find other ways to express yourself because your expression was already calculated. It was already,
it was the normal.
Was the norm. Yeah. So
there's a bit by Pete Holmes where he talks about that, where he's like, because he used to be Christian, and he talked about, well, yeah, there was all different types of Christians. I thought there was like, the Catholics and Lutherans, and then like us, the normals.
Yeah, it's true.
Like it's here. He's joking, but it's like, God, that really does say something about how we respond to our beliefs, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. So I say that because you see this too. Right, where it's like, oh, why do they have all these words? Why are they coming up with new stuff? It's like because the human experience is maybe a little bit more complicated than we might give it credit for. And self-discovery is not a bad thing, right? Even if you do change your mind about how you feel about yourself later. So, anyway,
how do you identify now, Dan? Are you more of like a Carrie or a Samantha?
Okay. Was it on BoJack Horseman a Zoe versus a? What's the other one? I can't remember with the Z word. Anyway, we should ask our caller Rogue Show because we've been talking a lot of things here. What we've getting a lot of comments.
Are you a
Do
Samantha?
you have any thoughts?
I guess now that you mention it, like using the useful term LGBT people does indeed help find communities. Does indeed help find communities and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So what about? I guess that I'd imagine unlike. I'm sorry.
No worries.
Yeah. Would skeptic fall under the same type of community label? I guess.
Well,
I don't think it's a sexuality. No, I think it does. I think it can. I mean, yeah, because like I think some people can wear it as a badge of honor if they're in a community or in a family even that is like hardcore believers, believing anything that they're told or accept it all by faith, etc. I think for them to be able to say, yeah, I'm a skeptic, I think that does kind of take a stand. It's a little bit of a form of protest, and if that's not the norm that they're in or what's expected out of them. And I think that if they go in and they try to find communities of skeptics, they're going to find some assholes that they're not going to click with, but so do I in the areas of like the internet that I've been part of, like in deconstruction spaces or ex-Christian. So no, they're not gonna find like this community that's like ready to open their arms or whatever. But I think that definitely could open up to them to find other people who they relate to and can share their story and be like, yeah, we're on the same page. We've had a similar experience with that,
Yeah. But you just have to be careful because you'd be like, oh, I'm so happy to be part of this new skeptic group. Be like, yeah, we talk about how climate change totally isn't real. It's like, Skeptic is just that's the big thing with that word, right? It's just it can be very broadly applied, and sometimes applied in ways in which you don't agree with, which is why I personally don't really use the term myself. But as Brady very rightly pointed out, it is a term of empowerment. Whether that's good empowerment, like finding a community after being part of a oppressive religious group, or maybe not as good empowerment, like, hey, my family doesn't listen to me when I talk about the flat earth, but now these other people in this echo chamber in my Facebook group can, help me work through that. Like, it can kind of cut both ways,
It's a deconstructing word, isn't it? It's more of like a word about taking something apart, but it's not about putting something together. So you can be skeptical about a truthful thing and stay there forever, right? Like, I think that's kind of a good point that you're bringing up as well, because skeptical doesn't necessarily mean that you're empowered to find any truth. It just means that you're really good at criticizing things that other people are calling true.
Yeah.
So like, it's also how you frame. What are you skeptical about, Dan? What are you skeptical about?
What am I skeptical about?
Yeah. What do you think? What are you skeptical about?
Man, I could say a lot of things there. I don't know. The thing is, like, I'm skeptical of hierarchy. I'm skeptical of fascists.
Good
I'm
answer.
skeptical of unjust hierarchies in particular, right? I mean, I am skeptical of how we distribute information, particularly authority on information, right? Like, I'm skeptical of lots of institutions that claim to be in our interest but aren't. But what is there to say with that? I mean, it's again just
it's a really good answer.
Thanks. I think so like in that ways it is appropriate to call myself a skeptic. But do I find community in that? Sure, in some ways. But I also find that I disagree with a lot of folks that I also would call themselves skeptics too, right?
It's interesting. What is at the heart of your skepticism and the examples you gave? It has to do with justice and the distribution of power and how power interacts with people within its hierarchy, right? Yeah. But if you look at a flat earther skeptic, really the enemy that they're declaring war on is scientific proof and a round planet, right?
It can be.
So I think that might be an interesting approach. It might be an interesting kind of practice to do as well, of like, okay, I'm skeptical, but what is it I'm skeptical about and why? Yeah. Like for me, my deconstruction leaving Christianity had so much to do with power distribution, how people are treated, what is real and what isn't, but it all had to do with power and justice, not just, oh, I want to protect this weird information that I read on the internet.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing at stake there that's real. I mean, they could do like the whole like, oh, the scholars, they're all against us. They're trying to say this and blah, blah, blah. It's like this big conspiracy from them. But it's like, what's at stake is nothing but your opinion on the situation, not anybody's well-being, not their life, not their ability to make autonomous decisions or to take control. Like, it's just for fun almost.
And that's the problem with recreational skepticism, though, that I find, Brady, because when you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail, right? How many times have I seen in my own life people who I call skeptics, people who I know, some who I know quite well, who have amazing takes on some things, and then I hear them talk about a different subject, and they don't know anything.
It's like, what the hell?
Right? It's the Dunning-Kruger effect in action in real time, and I guess that's a danger I have with us thinking that we're just the smartest bunch in the room, and that's how we project ourselves and market ourselves as atheists, but particularly as skeptics, right? Because there's so many things I don't know. It's ridiculous. The greatest way to sound smart on the internet is to just talk about what you know. That's it. If you've ever thought that I was smart about anything, it's just because you've only heard me talk about that particular subject, probably. If you ask me about, I don't know, the history of 1950s French Guiana, I wouldn't be able to tell you much. So I would probably sound like an idiot, but it doesn't matter because, you know, we project ourselves and we talk about the things that we find the most interesting. And that's often what people find most annoying about skeptics because they want to talk about the things that they can criticize and they feel confident in doing. And it's like, yeah, that's definitely a thing. That's true. But there's also more to life than tearing things down. You got to build things up sometimes too. So
I am the smartest in this room, I do want to say, because it's just me and my 2 cats, and they are both fucking idiots.
there you go. There you go. I believe
there we
you
go.
on that, Brady.
And the other thing too that clicked me is I'm thinking of like Russell Brand, where it's like people who have the gift of gab, and they can just keep going and going and talking about bullshit and just kind of like poke a whole bunch of holes in anything, but not really build anything. And like, oh, look over there, you know, don't pay attention to my sexual abuse trials and anything that, you know, Russell Brand is doing. But because he's decent looking and can just keep talking, he's going to get followers. He's going to people who buy into that or buy into the personality. And once we start believing things because of who tells it to us,
we're
gonzos. We're done. We've lost the way.
100%. Rogueshow, we've been talking for a little bit. What do you think?
Where to start? God. I guess. Sorry.
You don't have to apologize. It's okay.
I guess that's kind of it. Like I have a sort of skeptic, or I have a more rigorous definition of skepticism, and I think it excludes. For me, it excludes. Or no, there's no offense to any theists, but it excludes. I think it excludes theism because I think it excludes theism. However, there are a lot of Christians who are hella smarter than me, and probably a lot more skeptical than me. So,
yeah, I think some of the greatest contributions that humans have ever made, some of them have been from theists, right? I don't think you should have to discount someone's intelligence or ability to be skeptical just based on their God belief, right? So if I could say anything to that, Rogueshow, I would encourage you to maybe expand that pretty exclusive definition of skeptic to folks who can absolutely contribute meaningfully to a skeptical worldview or a skeptical discussion that may have other points of their worldview that leave, you know, more room for interpretation. Because the truth is, that's all of us, right? So, I don't know. That's my thoughts there. Brady, you're gonna.
Well, not to blur the lines now. Call me Alan Thicke's son. What is his name? Do you remember that Blurred Lines song?
Oh my God! Wow, that was like what 20.
Sorry, I pulled that. But okay, I just googled skeptic to get a little definition, and I think I see where Rogue is coming from. The first definition, most basic, which is the most basic definition, in my opinion, is my definition. That's where I'm going to go. But a person inclined to question or doubt accepted opinions. Now, here's my question: if by faith you have to accept Christianity to be a Christian by faith, are you able to actually doubt an accepted opinion? Because there are certain opinions within that skepticism that if you do kind of question it, it kind of takes that also Christianity identity away, because it does build on faith. Okay, so what I'm thinking is, Rogue, I see what you're saying. I think it may be, like you said, semantics, right? Like we like to take a word and really hit it as hard as it can. So can they be a full skeptic if they also have an identity that requires faith? In the definition I feel like you're presenting, and that's their view of skeptic, no. But I do get where you're coming from, because like if you are taking the not accepting opinions as part of your identity of saying I am not just I'm skeptical, but I am a skeptic, that does kind of have some inherent essential values that will brush up against somebody who takes on the full identity of something that requires an accepted opinion, that requires like a piece of faith.
Yeah. Counterpoint to your counterpoint, Brady. Hold on. This isn't over yet.
Hold on, sorry.
Because I think this is a tu quoque fallacy. You familiar with this? The idea
A what?
A
Was
tu
that French?
quoque fallacy. Yes.
I
Imagine
know most of my fallacies.
if let's say you murder somebody, Brady. And,
I don't have to.
And let's say it's objectively true that murder is wrong. For sake of argument, it's objectively true that murder is wrong. You murder somebody.
The person I murdered, though.
If you just let's get there. Let me get there, okay? You murder somebody, and then when I ask you if you think murder is wrong, you say yes, right?
Okay.
Or you may say no. Wait, no, you would say yes. I'm trying to make the example.
What would I?
Well, the point I'm trying to make is just because you're a personal hypocrite, right, doesn't mean that the argument can't be true, right? Doesn't mean that a position can't be true in some ways, right? So I think to wrap this back to our conversation, right, just because a Christian, if they have a theistic worldview that is based on faith, right, isn't necessarily following through with the quote-unquote true tenets of skepticism, I don't think that necessarily means that they can't hold that skepticism can be a virtue, right? Doesn't mean that they can't try to employ skepticism in a way in which they understand. So,
but I think we're talking about somebody who's identifying.
I still feel that way, even with identifying. I feel like because I think once again, like we're talking about long swaths of human history where most people have been religious, right? Like, and yeah, some of the most biggest contributors have also been more skeptical of their surroundings, but they may still had God beliefs. They may still had other unexplored thoughts there. It's just, you know, when we try to get our modern understandings of Christianity, right, it may interfere with that. So I don't know. I guess the question at the end of the day is,
may I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, go for it, Rogue.
And then let's wrap up the call from here. Go ahead, Rogueshow.
Okay. So I think I might have miscommunicated. My definition of skepticism doesn't entail, or it does doubt. It does entail like doubt, but it entails like once a proposition is logically sound and it has evidence, then that's when you believe it. Hence, looking over a claim or a proposition with logic and evidence, or someone who's in the mindset of looking at claims as logic and evidence.
Yeah. I think that's a modern application of our understanding of skepticism, right? With the use of the scientific method and everything, right? Talking about claims, talking about evidence, talking about, you know, a testing of a hypothesis and stuff, right?
Magnets, what are they?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think that even before we have the scientific method as understood today, I would argue there are still people of history that we would call skeptic in that sense, despite not having an exact application of some of the methods that you're describing, right? But I don't know. That's just my take on it. We do need to get going here, though, because we've been on this call for quite a while. But this was a great conversation, Rogueshow. Thank you so much for calling about this topic. You definitely stimulated some neurons. My neurons are firing in my brain right now. And that's all thanks to you. And also Brady. Thank you, Brady, for a stimulating conversation. It's very good.
You're welcome.
You have that look on your face.
You just worded it kind of gross. Like, I don't need to know like what's swirling around in your... I need to know.
Sure, fine.
Who's your favorite X-Men?
Who's my favorite X-Man?
Yeah, I was just thinking of Rogue Show, like Rogue made me think of that.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite X-Men?
I don't know. I got a call last week. Somebody said I look like a Wolverine that let himself go, but I also had my beard shaved. Yeah, I know.
They could have just said Beast, but not Blue.
That's true. That's true. They could have done that. I don't know.
Basically the same thing, but
here's the thing. Real X-Men heads would like, if I make a pick, they're gonna be like, oh, here's why his pick is trash. You know, because like, they don't know enough about this character. That's what happened. When I was a kid, I liked the ice guy. What's his name? Iceman. Yeah. I thought he was cool, but I don't know. Then I'm gonna go to like the wiki or something and find out he's like, you know, a misogynist or something, and then it's like, oh no,
he's a white supremacist.
He's a white supremacist character. Yeah, you can't. You don't know
the
writers these days. They'll do anything with
white
these characters. Yeah, I don't know.
I like the boys. Yeah, that's what I feel that. I liked Nightcrawler when I was a kid because he was a Christian.
Is that true?
And now I like him because
well,
he was a Christian. He grew up like in a monastery. And I remember as a kid on the cartoon, he even talked about like salvation and praying. It was good. But then I grew up and then he was played by Alan Cummings. And then I'm like, oh, this character is real gay too. And now I like him again.
I think 90% of my X-Men knowledge, I think, comes from that 90s cartoon.
Oh God, yeah. And then they made the new one, and I watched a few episodes. It was actually
There's
really
a new cartoon.
Good.
Okay, well,
it's called X-Men '97, and it is a right after. It is a 25-year gap or whatever that is, and they picked the story right back up and brought some really interesting like social commentary.
Okay.
And it was real good. Yeah, highly.
Well, again,
there we go.
Free promotional material for
X-Men '97.
Completely unrelated.
Y'all need any TV shows? Find me. I'll diagnose you.
And people, if people want to find you, Brady, where should they go to do that?
Oh, I'm like on Facebook because I'm old. I'm a geriatric millennial, so I'm still on Facebook. I'm also on Instagram and TikTok, but I don't use it very often. If you're local, you could probably find me on Grindr. But yeah, Brady Hardin on anything, pretty much. Not too many other people have my name, except for funny story. When I first got a Facebook, somebody thought that I was some Brady something that lives in their county, and that person evidently was not a good person.
Oh no.
So they tried to this was 2006 that this happened, but they thought I was this other guy, and a whole bunch of people started writing me these horrible messages, and I'm like, dude, you all just have you have the wrong Brady.
Oh no. Oh no.
They told me off real good for things I would never do. Good God. Man. I would murder somebody, but I would do the things I was accused of in these messages. No.
Identity theft is a serious crime, you know?
Yeah, I don't want that identity though. That Brady can keep it.
Well, real quickly, I want to give a special thanks to Kelly, who's our backup host today, and is also going to be hosting in the after show in the Discord, which Brady said he will graciously join. I will not be there because I'm in the studio and they got to shut stuff down, so I'm not going to be able to join it. But go talk to Brady if you want to, and Kelly in the after show. I think you should, because it should be a good time. Hey, Kelly, he's on the screen with us again today. Thanks so much for all that you do. And a reminder, the prompt this week is, what's Jesus's best excuse for not showing up? Leave a comment on the video, and your comment might be read next week in our top 3 picks. Of course.
Did you answer that though, Dan? I know you're trying to close on us, but did you answer that question?
I usually leave the creativity to the guests. I want to see what they have to bring to the table, because you already hear enough of me talking in this whole shebang, right? That's an excuse for I haven't thought of a clever answer, actually. Truth be told.
Yeah, I think that's I think that's really what was happening.
Yeah, that's actually what's going on. I don't know. He's not. He still has to put a towel on or something. He's not ready to come back. I don't know. It wasn't very good.
Maybe there wasn't enough fiber wherever he is.
There wasn't enough fiber. Yeah, I could see that. I don't know. He's got to finish watching Battlestar Galactica. I don't know. That's
a good show.
Yeah, that's why he's got to
see. He may be my ex, but we still have some things in common.
Well, I'll let you and your ex work on that then, and we'll close things out from here. Once again, folks, thank you to everybody for watching the show tonight. I'm Objectively Dan. Remember to always keep wanting the truth, and I'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.
Watch the non-profits and join the hosts in the live chat. Visit tiny.cc/ytnp.